Okay. Chapter 4. Welcome back to Asagao Academy Normal Boots Club. Sorry to you guys. I haven't been streaming that much lately because there's been a project I've been working on for school, which is really kicking my ass right now. But when I get more time to stream, I will do that as much as possible. Which will probably be in a few weeks. But in any case, there's going to be a stream every Sunday, and I hope to like put some streams in between there if I can. Also, there's been a poll during a little side stream I did last week, and the next game we're going to play is Mother 3, so be looking forward to that. That's definitely one of my favorite games of all time, and if you're a fan of Undertale, you're gonna really love that because, well, it's basically the closest game to that. Okay, let's begin. Now say Romeo. John held a small chunk of a cracker before the new Jacques, who twitched his head from side to side. Romeo, come on now, I know you can do it, Romeo. New Jacques blinked at John. John dragged his hand through his hair. He'd been at this for the last 3 hours, all just trying to teach Jacques the word Romeo. It apparently took him the first 2 hours just to get Jacques to hold still on command, and now John was stuck on the very first word Juliet should know in the play. At this rate, I doubt this plan was really going to work out. If Jacques couldn't learn the word Romeo, how was he going to learn wherefore, or forsooth, or bane? Don't worry, the first word is always the hardest. After that, it gets easier. Way easier. I nodded silently. Romeo! Say the word Romeo! Say Romeo, for God's sake! John. I rested a hand on his arm, and he glanced at me. You're right, sorry. He swallowed, setting down the small cracker. Do you think you could take over? I need a break.
Yeah.
Sure, of course. John collapsed into his bed, a hand over his eyes. I bit my lip. He was so stressed out, and if he was wasting all of his time on Jacques, he wouldn't be able to practice. I turned to the new Jacques. It sure is a shame that this Jacques isn't human. You know, I bet a human Juliet would be able to do this easily. What a weird thought, right? I looked meaningfully at John, but he was barely listening. Out of the costume is made a Juliet costume. Juliet costume too. She liked the design and wanted a life-size version for herself. I bet it's really pretty. It's a shame no one will be able to see it under the stage lights. John scoffed. What a waste of her time. So what made you want to have Jacques play Juliet in the first place? John rubbed his face, exhaling deeply. He was mushing his cheeks into little puffs like a chipmunk. Jacques has star quality, unlike anything I'd ever seen. You saw him and you instantly loved him. He had an effect on people unlike any other. That it factor, you know? He's practically begging to go into show business. And if we could just make it happen, imagine where that would take us. A grin spread across his face. I nodded slowly. And this Jacques is the same? Well, there's only one Jacques now, so he better be. There was a note of finality to his voice. Finality. So I turned back to the bird in question. Romeo! Romeo! Wherefore art thou, Romeo? Nothing. The play was only 2 weeks away. Would Jacques really be ready in time? If he wasn't, the play would be a total disaster. I looked at John again, my conversation with Mai from just a few days before bouncing around my mind. If he got a human Juliet, almost all of his troubles would be fixed. We wouldn't have to worry about spending time teaching her lines because she could do it on her own. And then instead of worrying, he could study. Well, I said to look for opportunities, right? Well, here was one. I took a deep breath. John, I really think you should consider a human Juliet. Maybe you and Jacques, the old Jacques, would have been able to pull this off, but not this one. John sat up and blinked at me. I expected immediate refusal, but instead cogs were turning in his mind. Maybe you have a point. A pained expression crossed his face, and I wasn't sure whether it was because he missed the old Jacques, he was mourning the opportunity lost, or he was trying to imagine the play in a different way than he had the entire year. Probably all three. But you know, what if you tried a new technique? Yeah! We'll let him outside if he gets a word right. That'll definitely be good enough incentive, right? He beamed at me, and I was too glad to finally see him smiling again to turn him down. Besides, once John decided on something, that was how he was doing it. With a sigh, I turned back to Jacques. Romeo! Say the word Romeo!
Hey!
You know, you've gotten a lot better with birds. I thought things would get worse after Jacques destroyed Mr. Bunny. Yeah. Well, you know what they say, practice makes perfect. It was kind of hard to be afraid of something when you were furious with it. It was the middle of the week, and class just ended. John, as he often did nowadays, went rushing out the door as soon as the bell rang, put my books in my bag, intending to follow to help out with today's shock training session when PBG stopped me.
Hey.
Hana, can I talk to you for a second? I'm in a little bit of a rush. Can it wait? I moved a step past him, but PBG threw out an arm to stop me. I don't think it can, but let's not talk here. PBG and I headed out to onto the campus, away from the flood of students and their listening ears. His face was grim, his hands firmly in his pockets. With each step we took, my anxiety increased. What was so wrong that PBG had to talk to me about it? It wasn't until we got to the soccer field, nearly empty considering it was just after class, that PBG finally told me what was on his mind. Is John okay?
What?
What? What makes you ask something like that? He gave me a look. One that I said, I'm not stupid, that's what. I sighed. I know John's been struggling since Jacques left, but now there's a new Jacques? It's blatantly obvious that it's not the real Jacques, but John keeps trying to convince me that it is, even though he knows I know otherwise. I didn't want to say anything about it, since John was so adamant, but it's really weirding me out. His grades are falling, he's hardly sleeping anymore, and on top of that, he's not showing up to meetings or paying any attention to the club business. He's one of the founders. He can't just leave everything to us. We're a team. We all need to work together. And now he's dragging you into it too. What do you mean dragging me into it? I want to help him. Besides, I'm perfectly fine.
No.
I've seen you rushing off after every class, following him to our room. Then you stay until I show up after soccer practice, and you rush right on out without so much as a hello. What's going on? Have you even had time to sleep, study, go to dinner? You don't go to dinner with John, do you? You guys aren't dating, are you? He grabbed his arms on impulse, gently rubbing them to prevent the boy from an imminent heart attack.
Hey!
PG, calm down. Please calm down. I know things look really bad right now, but... What? But they would get better? There wasn't a chance in hell that would happen now, as John was being completely unwilling to take suggestions. But we'd win the tournament? Those odds looked bleak too. I hadn't had time to practice since getting wrapped up with the new Jacques. Still have 15 points, shit. I was just kind of hoping that my prior practice and Shane's advice, strategy as always, would pan out for me. Then what? What could I really say? PG seemed to be thinking the same thing. He took a hand out of his pocket and rested it on my arm. We formed a weird kind of circle, both trying to comfort the other.
Hana.
He shouldn't be allowed to drag you into this too. It's one thing to risk his own well-being, but... PG seemed sincerely distressed about what possible harm I was coming to. I thought it was both charming and slightly ludicrous. In spite of myself, I started giggling.
What? What? Why are you laughing at me?
It's nothing, it's just... You're so thoughtful, PBG.
What?
What?
I wiped tears from my eyes, struggling to calm down.
You're always looking out for me. I really do appreciate it.
No, it's really nothing. I wanted to date PBG again! You're right that it makes the things a little bit tougher on me, but that's okay. I volunteered for this. Things are bad, but I can't just abandon John, not when he clearly needs me the most. But I can't be there all the time. Can you try and make sure he's eating and sleeping? There's no way we'll be able to get everything done, and it's not looking like things will go well. He's only going to get more and more worked up. At the very least, we can prevent some of the damage that'll cause by making sure he's a little bit healthier than he would be if we left him on his own. PBG pouted, seeming somewhat annoyed. I felt bad getting him involved too, but I knew I could count on him when I needed help.
There's no stopping John if he doesn't want to, but I can try.
PBG glanced away for a second, running a hand through his hair.
So you like him then?
What?
What? No, of course I don't. There was the look again, the I'm not stupid. Maybe a little.
Well, that's fine. Yeah, maybe you'll be good for him.
He sighed heavily. It wasn't at all the joyous, teasing response I expected from him. Do you not think we'd make a good couple? I know it seems unlikely.
No, just the opposite. You guys would make each other happy. I can really see it working out in the long term.
Oh, he sighed again. Then why are you...
Anyways, I don't want to keep you. We have practice today anyways. I better not see you in this room when I get back. Go home early today and get some work done. Look after yourself.
See you later.
I will. Thanks, PBG.
Aww.
I rushed out the field, hoping I didn't miss anything important during today's teaching session. There were only 2 days left until the performance. He definitely is. Surely there was something we could do. It's so sad because, well, PBG's route was definitely the best one so far. Like, well, anyways. Soon was the day before the play, and the new Jacques was nowhere even close to ready. We only just managed to get him to keep his Juliet costume on without throwing off the hat every 5 seconds. There was absolutely no way we were also going to be able to teach him how to act and make Shakespeare intelligible to an uninformed audience. John paced nervously before me, biting his fist, bags lighting his eyes. His face was pale, and every time I came over to his room was another degree messier than I thought humanly possible. What if they made it a comedy act? What did you say, Juliet? Oh, you love me? Like, something like that. I don't know. I don't know Romeo and Juliet enough. I know they both die at the end. John paced nervously before me, biting his fist. Bags lighting his... oh. From hanging around him for the past few days, it was clear he was completely consumed by the thoughts of the play. I tried to distract him by talking of other things, telling stories, making jokes, but it was it's no use! Sorry, Sonic 06 joke. John had a one-track mind. Even when I managed to engage him in something else for a second, he immediately likened it to the play afterwards.
Hey.
You think we'll be able to get Jacques to do something like that?
I had never been so near a human putting themselves under so much stress, and I had no idea what to do. At this point, I was I was worried about more than just the play in the tournament. I was seriously concerned about his health. If he was like this now, how would he be 5 years in the future, when his job or family's future was on the line? If he kept going like this, something had to give. I didn't want to have to watch that happen. Hana. I jumped. John stopped pacing and was now facing me, a look of utter defeat on his face. I really don't know what to do. I don't think this shock is going to work out.
Really?
What? Really? He finally realized it? Up until now, he'd been adamant that it would just require a little more time. It's just, I'm so frustrated. Absolutely everything is going perfectly. The sets are done, the extras are doing amazing, and all the other actors and actresses are kicking ass. The costuming is out of this world for a school production. The lighting, the sound design, the props, everything is set for it to be a perfect play except for this. And I don't know what to do. He collapsed into a seat on the couch, and I wrapped an arm around him. This isn't even counting the tournament. I've been trying to practice every night, but half the time I fall asleep when I start. And then he comes home and we have to do our assignments, and I stay up late doing those. I must be missing something. There must be some way to make it work. It'll be okay, don't worry. It'll all work out. I mean, you're giving it everything you got, aren't you? That has to mean it'll work out. It has to. I rubbed his back, staring straight ahead. Truth be told, I didn't think it was going to work out. The writing was on the wall. But I could see where he was coming from. Even now, I held a small sliver of hope that maybe, just maybe, a miracle would somehow occur. It seemed stupid to suggest the grandiosity of a miracle for something as silly as a school play, but still. Hello, Death Brock. How you doing? Maybe that miracle consisted of a simple choice. Are you sure you don't want to switch to a human, Juliet? John flinched and shrugged my arm off his shoulder.
Of course not! I have a vision for this play, Hana. A vision! Besides, do you think switching now would do anything? She'd need her costume adjusted, the lines memorized, and we'd have to redo and relearn the blocking for everyone, and find newly sized props, and she'd have to be sufficiently talented. It won't work.
Good. Playing Pokemon Picross. Nice. Love Picross. I clenched my hands together in my lap, running my thumbs over each other. Sure, it'll be a lot of work, but I felt like John was just determined to be as miserable as possible. If he wasn't so set in his ways, if he actually listened to other people's advice or suggestions, this wouldn't have happened. He honestly brought this all on himself, but he couldn't see that. It was Jacques' fault, or the world was a mean place. It had nothing to do with him being what amounted to, honestly speaking, a bad leader. But I gritted my teeth. What would telling him do now? He'd just get even more angry, no doubt. If he wouldn't listen, he wouldn't listen. It's just... John's voice caught in his throat, and he took a few deep breaths before starting over. A small pang of guilt hit me, but I shook it off, my head swimming. It's just that it's not me counting on this to work. There are so many people who put in their time, effort, their passion. There's so many people who worked so hard, gave up sleep, hurt themselves, worry about this play. This is JonTron's story. And now, because I couldn't teach this damn bird, it's all going to pieces. He put his face in his hands. I feel like George Lucas after he realized the Phantom Menace was actually a piece of shit. I rubbed his back, nodding. There was nothing else I could really say. The truth of the situation was that John messed up, and nothing I said or did would cushion the blow. John was in charge of the entire play. If something went wrong, he was by virtue of that position at least partially at fault, for he made the decision to do that thing or trust that person somewhere down the line. It won't be as bad as you're imagining, I'm sure. That at least was something I could truthfully say. John shook his head again, then wrapped his arms around me and buried his face in my shoulder. I stroked his hair, and we sat like that in silence. It was all we could do. Hi, Doug man. How you doing? Finally, Romeo and Juliet's opening day arrived. I made it to the theater an hour earlier than the call time, partially because of nerves and partially because I knew my costume was going to be an absolute bitch to put on. Slowly, the other cast members began to show up. Warm-ups were performed, makeup was put on, stretches were stretched. Jeez. I'm not looking forward to this play. I'm doing really good. Yeah. It's been a bit stressful with the project I'm working on, but everything's going well. Actors were an interesting bunch. Some of them were completely insufferable, the kind of people who tried to take attention from others because they definitely were making up for something else. Some were also shallow people who collected numbers and treated everybody like a best friend they hadn't seen in years, screaming out names and pulling them into bear hugs only to talk shit about them minutes later. But some of them were the most unique, quirky, clever people you could ever meet. Some were humble, some were even averse to attention until they actually were on stage. One in particular I hadn't even heard speak outside of yes, no, and his lines. There are those who liked the poetry of the words, those who loved plowing the psychological depths of a given character, and those who treated scripts as treasure hunts or puzzles, reading them over and over for the single line that would allow them to completely reinterpret the character's motivation. All in all, I liked the atmosphere, and this surprised me. I was a quiet person, a bookworm and a nerd. I didn't really like having people's attention, and being surrounded by too many strangers made me nervous, especially when I couldn't trust them. But here, people were energetic, people were funny, people were bright. More accurately, people were all over the place. It seemed like almost anything could happen, and despite the potential for mockery, no one treated me like a weirdo. They just accepted my quirks as they were. I understood why John wanted to make the play a success, and how keenly he felt everyone's passion and hard work. I almost wished I could keep doing it. Almost. But that only made it all the harder when John finally showed up looking like the actual reincarnation of the Grim Reaper. New Jacques in tow.
Hana.
Hana, you look great. I stared at myself in the mirror. Yes, great. Exactly how I would have put it. Truly, tree is my most natural state.
John.
Yes! Awesome! It's not just a tree, it's a fucking tree stump! Thanks, John, really. I'm honored to have the chance to play the part of Tree. Even though it was awkward to have swords flying in front of my face and people making out of my feet. How do you think things are going to go? You feeling okay? John cleared his throat, then smiled. Of course, they're going to go perfectly, all according to plan. I just know it. John did not know it. The play opened to the polite smattering of applause. The first bunch of students rolled out on stage, gathering into an actual chorus line before delivering the prologue of the play. Two households both alike in dignity, in fair Verona, where we lay the scene. The scene switched, this time to a public area. I shuffled out of my tree garb, perching right in the middle of the stage. Muffled laughter came from the audience. My hair was still quite visible, despite my being a tree. Therefore, the actors started in on their lines. Laughter quickly faded as an all-out brawl held on to the stage. John's knowledge of stage fighting coming out full force. The audience gasped and cooed as the actors slugged it out. To the audience, it must have seemed like a particularly good acting, but I knew those actors sincerely hated each other. A few times I caught them actually trying to hurt each other. So far, so good. It wasn't long before Romeo himself came onto the scene, decrying his unrecorded love for his one unseen Rosaline. Typo found achievement unlocked. Now, there's quite a few typos in here, sadly. I narrowed my eyes. Romeo and Juliet was supposed to be a play about true love or something, but I didn't really see it. But the audience seemed to enjoy it. As long as things kept going like this, everything would be fine. But we weren't even able to teach Shock Juliet's lines. Now my breath as the scene ended and shuffled off stage. In no time, it was Juliet's first scene.
God forbid, where's this girl? What? Juliet?
Jacques twitched out on stage, glancing between the two. I just stood there, in silence. Oh no! Out of nowhere, a voice bellowed across the speakers.
How now? Who calls?
John? John? Was John going to read Juliet's lines?
Your mother.
Madam, I am here. What is your will?
The audience seemed a bit perplexed, but either way they went along with it. A bird on stage was a novel sight after all. They seemed intrigued to be getting something they weren't expecting. That's cool. Still, John wouldn't be able to pull this off for long. Eventually, Romeo would need to speak Juliet. And when that happened...
My lips, two blushing pilgrims ready to stand to smooth that rough touch with a tender kiss.
John approached Shock. She was supposed to rebuff Romeo here, at least at first. My heart pounded in my chest as John grew closer and closer. Jacques twitched his head from side to side.
Please, Shock, please tell me you learned something.
Then Juliet opened her mouth.
Wait, what?
Whoa, my love, I am dying. Lay the sword into my breast and poison to my lips. Yeah, I am dead.
Whoops.
John paused, unsure what to do with this development. Whispers echoed through the... I don't know, should it be robot voice or should it be bird voice? I think it should be bird voice, actually. Whispers echoed through the theater, and I couldn't tell whether they were more from the actors or the audience.
I have not seen lips, and holy palmers too.
Dead, I am dead. I'm hungry. Feed me.
I had my face with my hands. I couldn't watch. The play went on like that, the actors valiantly trying to work around Jacques' utter insistence of his own demise. By the time early intermission rolled around, the audience was audibly upset. People shifted in their seats, sighing and grunting. Women whispered cutting remarks to their husbands. The outrage, though concealed, was palpable. At this point, there wasn't even a plot. It would have been an avant-garde had John and the others known how to play off of their mistakes, but none of the actors knew how to improvise in Shakespeare. They plowed through the scenes as if Juliet said all the right things, and as a consequence, nothing made sense. I watched it all play out in front of me, trying as hard as I could not to cringe. Trees, after all, did not cringe. As the cast sat in dejected huddle during the first intermission, John peeked behind the curtains, trying to gauge how the audience was taking it.
People are even asking for their money back. At the rate this is going, people are going to leave before the play's even over.
John, I'm so sorry.
What am I going to do? What am I going to do?
The show must go on. And Asagao Academy stopped working. So I need to restart it and skip through the lines. Shit. Well, show must go on.
Yeah, I'm not gonna...
Asagao Academy, Normal Boots Club.
Oof. Just to be sure, I'm gonna save here.
show must go on.
I'm gonna save here again. Yes.
John gazed at me. The other cast members watched us, the room stuffy and silent.
So it must.
Hey!
Hey, at least you didn't direct the room. It could have been worse. This is at least better than that.
Is it?
John fixed a smudge in his makeup in the mirror, probably caused by his nervous habit of rubbing his face and hair, then lined up before the curtain. Shade lights dimmed.
Is it really?
The play continued on. In a way, it was almost inspiring how the actors kept trying to give their best performance, how John bullheadedly continued with his vision in stark defiance of reality. The others grew more and more restless as they saw the quality of the play wasn't improving. A more proactive of them trickled out of the theater. John grew irate. Backstage, a feeling of gloom and despair floated through the air. It was a doomed production. Everyone cared, everyone was passionate, everyone was giving it their all, but nothing they did would save the play. Actors quietly opened bottles of water, hardly speaking to each other. It was like seeing kids soberly lining the walls of a candy store. It was just plain wrong. I sat with them backstage, listening to the play, when John came flying around the corner.
Where's Shock?
He was panting heavily, abject terror on his face. Shock, can you not find him?
He's gone. He's nowhere to be found. I think he flew away.
John Hughes buckled and he collapsed onto the floor.
It's too late. I can't do anything else. The play is over. He's gone. He's gone. He's gone.
I put a hand on his forehead, which was burning hot. He was breathing quickly. Eyes staring straight ahead, not even registering what was in front of him. He wasn't even in the theater with me. He was lost in his mind. Thank you, Ultra Tom, for the host. Thank you so much. He was having a panic attack. I swallowed hard and pulled him into his sitting position. When I had panic attacks back home, my dad always helped me calm down. I pulled John's head to my chest, stroking his hair. Hey. You're alright. You're safe. You're backstage in the theater at Asagao. You're wearing your Romeo costume, and I'm dressed as a tree. It's hot back here. The floor's rough underneath you. People here at the play care about you and want you to be happy. Your friends love you and want you to be happy. I love you and want you to be happy. John's breathing started to slow and he clutched my arms. Also, I'm dressed as a tree. That is a thing. John let out a light chuckle, mopping sweat off his brow. He sat up, clearly still a bit shaken, but much better than before. He took my hand and smiled.
Dwarf. Thank you, Hana.
I nodded and pulled him into a hug. I miss old Jacques.
Jacques would have been able to do the play.
Jacques wouldn't have let me strain myself. Jacques would have cared about my well-being, and he would have been able to calm me down, and... John took a deep, shaky breath. Just this realization struck me so hard I felt like I'd been slapped in the face. John hadn't been able to grieve. Between the play, the tournament, and school, John never had time to actually feel and mourn his best friend's passing. Instead, he and I insistently found a replacement that only cemented how much he lost in the first place. This was partially my fault. What should I do? Gonna save over this? Yes. Be sympathetic or be real with him. I think being real with him is too harsh. But also it's necessary. Like, I don't know what to do. Yeah. I'm gonna try to be real with him.
Well,
John, listen. I swallowed. I hated being the bearer of bad news. Jacques is gone. There's no getting him back. This new bird was a mistake. There's no replacing Jacques, and I think you and I both know it. You're being too stubborn, trying to force something that wasn't meant to be. You, no, we. I think we both need to learn how to let things go. John didn't say anything for a long while. I stroked the back of his hair, hard pounding, hoping beyond hope that I hadn't done any damage and made it worse. Snippets of the play flowed through the cracks in the curtains. They were getting close to Juliet's next scene. Would we just have to stop the play? John pushed himself away from me. I'll be right back. John scurried into the back room, and I bit my lip. Did I do the wrong thing? Some of the other actors watched as I crossed to and sat down in a corner of the room. When I looked at them, they looked away, as if this whole situation wasn't bad enough. Finally, John returned, solemnly carrying a piece of bunched fabric in his hands. It looked kind of familiar. He came up to me and gently set it on my lap. I ran my hands across it, smoothing it out. It was thick and heavy, purple and beige. I straightened it. The folds of a dress spilled to the floor. Juliet? Do you mind taking over?
what?
But John, I'm not an actress. I know you know the lines from trying to teach them to Jacques this whole past month. I heard you while practicing. You were trying to teach him the emotion, not the words. And the thing is, you were good. Not great, of course, but good. You make a fantastic tree, but I think you make an even better Juliet. And if I hadn't been so stubborn, I would have seen this sooner. John, I don't know. I'm really not the acting type. I had a really bad stage fright. I'm just not sure. Hana. Even if you don't think you can do it for yourself, couldn't you do it for me? My hands shook as I held the dress up, trying to imagine it on myself. There was no way this was going to go well. There was no way! But then, it wasn't as if the play could get any worse. I wanted to take some of the strain off of John. Even if this meant that the play completely bombed, at least we could face the devastation together. For once, John was truly relying on me. If it's for you, I think I can try. John immediately pulled me into a bear hug, crushing my arms against my ribs, and just as quickly pulled away. Go and get changed! Hurry! I'll stall for as long as I can. It's pretty cute. But... Go! John pushed me towards the dressing room, then rushed into the wings. I sprinted into the back room. The costumer stood back there, sheer glee on her face. I always hoped this costume would see the light of day. She stripped me down, practically demolishing my tree costume in a rush. Oh, that sucks. I can fix it later, and pulled Juliet's dress over my head. Hana, you've completely transformed. She placed Juliet's hat on my head, and as I did, I peered into the mirror. Ooh. The costumer smacked me on the back, jolting me back to my senses. I had to hurry. I ran into the wings, trying to peer on stage. John was wandering the front, bemoaning the loss of his fair Juliet. Certain members of the audience mumbling under their breath. Where was I supposed to enter from? I glanced around, utterly confused. Oh, woe, if only my fair maiden would graceth me with her fairest of presences. Shit, I need to get out of here. Out there. Nothing for it. I emerged as gracefully as I could, head bowed and under the harsh lights. John turned shocked, but immediately covered his expression. My most fairest of maidens, hark. O fair, how haven't thee found thyself upon this balcony of mine desire? I flushed. Now I was supposed to improv? In Shakespearean? My heart of hearts, my love of loves, naught but mine horrid folk have trapped with me here. That worked, right? Where exactly in the plot were we? My love, Right, I rushed over here as soon as I had received thine hasty message. Thine sweet Romeo, star of thine heavens and dew, the refreshed hope of mine heart. I shall rescue you, and we shall then flee and frolic as none ever have.
John lifted his arms to me. I stared at him. He didn't mean for me to jump, right? Surely he was joking. But John made a face at me, and I flicked his fingers towards him. I swallowed. For thee, my love, for thee I overcome. With a deep breath, I climbed in onto the edge of the balcony. Then, eyes closed, I jumped. Ah! I collapsed right on top of him, and John fell to the floor. Hearing John's grunt, I rolled off and away from him, ending up against the fake bush and knocking it down. I wheezed desperately, trying to catch my breath, as John crawled over to me. Hana, are you okay?
Oh,
Hana, the play. Waarschijnlijk niet. Waarschijnlijk niet.
Oh, how oft when men are at the point of death, have they been merry, which their keepers call a lightning before death? Oh, how may I call this a lightning? Oh, my love, my wife, death that hath sucked the money of thy breath, hath had no power yet upon thy beauty.
John immediately launched into Romeo's Death of Juliet speech, and I closed my eyes, doing the best impersonation of a dead person that I could muster. It wasn't hard given the circumstances. And lips, oh you, the doors of breath seal with a righteous kiss, a dateless bargain to engrossing death. John turned toward me, eyes lit with determination. Oh no, I forgot all about this part. He placed his arms on either side of me, his face coming closer and closer. My heart beat rapidly as I tried my hardest not to scrunch up my face. My first kiss! John cupped his hands around my chin and placed his thumbs over my mouth. He kissed the tips of his thumbs ever so tenderly, then pulled away, all the sorrow of a grieving man in his eyes. Thus with a kiss, I die. John collapsed next to me, hand in mine. The actors playing our families rushed out on stage. John and I giggled quietly. That went well. Better than expected. You were right, Hana. A human Juliet was 1,000,000 times better. Not least of all because I think I finally understood how Romeo felt about her. John? I mean, you almost killed me. John. Just kidding. John grinned, nudging me in the ribs. Shh. In the end, the play was a success. Well, comparatively. People praised the action-packed twist at the end, seeing the entire play as a strange avant-garde performance. Juliet was a bird because she was treated as subhuman until she finally was able to exercise her free will, or something. Under this artsy pretense, we were given the benefit of the doubt and allowed to continue with the play. People complimented me on a job well done, though they didn't necessarily mean my performance. A few people did say my death was pretty convincing, though. As we hung up our costumes, John and I joked to ourselves about the new Jacques' mysterious disappearance. I think he flew to the Bahamas, or maybe he returned to that creepy shopkeeper. I'm just glad he's out of our lives now. He was nothing but trouble. Are you sure he's not hurt, though? Are you kidding me? That bird's even more stubborn than I am. He's got a survival instinct surpassing the fiercest lion of the savannah. He'll be fine. Honestly, it was better that he was gone. He would be happier that way. John said that I would play Juliet from now on, and that we would practice whenever we liked, though I wasn't too keen on that idea. Overall, as we headed to our dorms to practice like crazy before the tournament, I was happier that I had been in a long, long time. Maybe there was something to this acting thing after all. I woke the next morning feeling like an entirely new person. I grabbed my uniform, laying it flat against my chest and glancing into the mirror. It is I, Hana, an actress. I giggled quietly to myself. I groaned from our bunk. Sorry. I changed into my uniform and dashed out the door. Today was the day of the tournament. Maybe I could turn one within... Maybe I could turn... No. Okay. I'll be right back. Yeah? No.